Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you all of the books that are on my fall TBR. So obviously I do one of these videos for every season. I love putting together seasonal TBRs. It is just so fun to me. So I've selected I think 10 or 11 books that I think are just going to be really good fall reads for me. I have some spookier books, although for the most part all of these spooky books that I want to read in fall I will be talking about in my September and October TBR because I am doing dedicated videos for those. So my September one is already up and I'm going to be posting my October TBR in a couple of weeks or so. So those are definitely going to contain the more like scary, atmospheric October-ish reads. But here I just have some like general fall books. I have a lot of fantasy on this list because I love reading fantasy books in late fall. Like November is one of my favorite months to read fantasy books in. And I don't even know why, but it's just like so cozy. So I have some fantasy. I also have some books that I would not typically pick up, therefore a certain video that I'm like most likely gonna be filming. I'm not gonna tell you what that video is. I'm just gonna let you guess, but I'm really excited about it. So let us just get into talking about all the books. So the first couple of books I'm definitely gonna be reading in September and October. The first one being An Education in Malice by S.T. Gibson. This is a dark academia book that takes place at this somewhat isolated women's college in the forgotten Massachusetts hills, which that alone sold me on wanting to read this. I believe this follows two girls who are rivals and it somewhat involves their poetry professor in some capacity. I don't 100% know, but I do know that this is also a Carmilla retelling, which is a very short vampire classic that I read a couple of years ago and I enjoyed it. So I'm quite interested to see what S.T. Gibson does with that kind of concept. I've heard decent things about this book. I feel like kind of mixed results really, but it's dark academia. I'm pretty sure it has vampires in it and it takes place at an isolated school, which is really, that sold me. I'm really excited about this one. Then I do have a cozy mystery and that is When the Crow's Away by Orly Wallace. This is the second book in the Even Fall Witches B&B mystery series. I feel like that's such a long series title. But I read the first book in this series last month and I really enjoyed it. I believe in this one, the ghost of a chocolatier believes he was murdered and our main character Bryn, who is a witch and one of her kind of specialties is that she can talk to ghosts. She is taking it upon herself to kind of solve this potential murder, which I cannot wait to get to because this series has like the most immaculate Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Gilmore Girls-esque vibes, which I absolutely love. It is definitely so cozy. Love the witches in it. Big fan. Then the next book is the continuation of a series that I'm currently in the middle of rereading, and that is The Two Towers by J.R.R. Tolkien. Hello? She's busting in. She cannot come in and not say hi. You're so cute. Oh, you look tired. Oh, alright, fine, I'll put you down. I read The Fellowship of the Ring earlier this month and I had such a fun time with my reread that I definitely want to continue on with the series. I remember The Two Towers being my favorite of the three books the first time I read Lord of the Rings, but I'm very interested to see if that is going to remain the case. I have no idea. At this point, I'm just going to kind of assume you know what Lord of the Rings is about, but obviously we're following Frodo Baggins as he is taking the One Ring to rule them all to the fiery pits of Mordor. I love the characters so much. I love Tolkien's prose. It is just stunning and I cannot wait to continue on with this series. So those are kind of just all of the books on my TBR that I have plans to read before Halloween, but the rest of the books I'm planning on reading in the second half of fall. Although honestly that's such a scary time to think about because I truly don't know what I'm gonna do when Halloween and spooky season are over. I'm sad already just thinking about it. However, thanks to the lovely sponsor of today's video, which is Skillshare, I think I might be able to find something to do. If you guys don't know, Skillshare is an online learning community full of thousands of different classes that you can possibly take in so many different subjects that are all led by industry professionals. And now that you're moving into the cozier, colder, more relaxed times of year, I feel like it is the perfect place to pick up a new hobby or improve a skill that you already have. Now, something I've always wanted to try but have never really gotten into is watercolor painting. Every watercolor painting I see is so beautiful, but just painting in general really intimidates me. So I found this class on Skillshare, which sounds absolutely perfect for this time of year, and it is called Fun Autumn Watercolor Doodle doodles for all levels from Neon Neani. I mean, just look how beautiful these autumnal watercolor illustrations look. I have to try this, absolutely have to. And obviously this class is perfect for so many people, whether you are a beginner or whether you have had some experience with watercolor before. And there's so many useful lessons in this class, such as how to plan out your painting, what supplies you might need, and it goes through all of these autumnal elements and shows you how to draw and paint them. I also really like that this class has a class project where you're kind of just replicating what she is teaching in the lessons, and people have uploaded pictures of what theirs look like, and they look so good, so I'm very motivated to try this myself. Also, with September being very synonymous with back to school time, it is kind of the perfect time to try and learn something new, because they have so many classes and topics such as art and illustration, DIYs and photography, and they've added some new classes recently in creative careers and creative inspiration. So if any of that sounds like something you would want to check out, I will leave a link to Skillshare down in the description, and the first 500 people that click that link will get their first month of Skillshare for free. That's a whole month of learning a new hobby for the cozy times of year that you could potentially love. So thank you again so much to Skillshare for supporting me and my channel, and to you guys watching this as well for always supporting me and my channel. I appreciate you more than you could honestly ever know. So yeah, let's get back into talking about the rest of the books that I want to read this fall. I think I want to now get into the fantasy books that I want to read this fall, because I have such a good lineup that I'm so excited about. The first one being a book that I have seen so many people talk about, so many people love it. I feel like I've never heard somebody say something bad about this book, and I've had it on my shelves for about a year and a half now, but I really desperately want to read this book before the end of 2024, and that is The Sword of Kaigen by Emma Wong. I have seen literally all of the like fantasy-centric booktubers that I enjoy watching. They love this book, they talk about it all the time, they hype it up, so I'm like, I need to read this so badly. But basically, I believe this is following a mother and a son, which is definitely a very different dynamic than you get in a lot of fantasy books, which certainly excites me, and you know, there's war coming to ravage their peninsula, I think. So I'm really excited about this one. I've just heard it is stunning, honestly. Next up, I have another book in the Discworld series. Now, I was reading a Discworld book. I was reading Weird Sisters, and I think I made it halfway through that book, and then I kind of just like lost steam with it a little bit. I do want to get back to it, but I feel like I'm in that weird kind of limbo where it hasn't been long enough that I need to restart the book, but it's been so long that I don't exactly remember what's happened thus far. So I just need to give that one a little bit, and then I'll probably like restart it and get back into it. But I decided I want to start the City Watch series in Discworld. They're like a bunch of little different series that are a part of Discworld, and I've just heard everybody rave about Guards. I hear it's so funny. They love the characters that are introduced in this, and I cannot wait to get to it. I believe in this one we are following the City Watch that is a part of Discworld as they, I don't know, maybe fight off a dragon? That's what's happening on the cover here. I'm not exactly sure, but I don't even care what the plot is because I know I 100% want to read this. And then I do have a couple of books that I put on my 2024 TBR that I obviously would like to get to before the end of the year. The first one being Days of Blood and Starlight by Laini Taylor. I have somewhat deliberately left this one until the end of the year because I read the first book in this series in November, and this series just kind of gives me November vibes. This is a young adult fantasy series that is following our main character Karu, who is kind of like an errand girl for these magical creatures, and it was just very unique and different from any other fantasy series that I've read, even though this was written like 10 years ago. The first book was not my favorite, but like that is for some certain reasons that I don't think are going to crop up in the other two books in the series. So I've been really excited about continuing this one. Obviously, I love the Strange the Dreamer duology so much, so it feels wrong that I have not completed Laini Taylor's other trilogy, so I'm gonna be working on that, and I'm gonna read this one in November. And then the other book, I do have a copy of it, but it's like on top of my bookshelf, so it's kind of hard to get to, so I didn't grab it. So that is Royal Assassin by Robin Hobb. This is the second book in the Farseer trilogy. We read Assassin's Apprentice last year for Wyverns and Words back in September, and I told myself last year, I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna continue this series so quickly. I did not. But I've kind of been putting this one off because I know that this series is a little bit heavier. It's very melancholic, so it's not always something that I want to pick up. But that kind of vibe does sound perfect for November, so I'm very interested to get back into this one. In the first book, we are following our main character Fitz, who is an illegitimate son to the king. So he's kind of in that weird limbo where like they can't just let him go because he might come back and lay claim to the throne, but obviously they don't want to actually accept him into court because he is illegitimate. So they keep him close to the court but not exactly in the court by making him an apprentice to an assassin. And we're kind of just seeing Fitz as he grows up. It starts from when he's very young, and I believe a couple of the series in the entire realm of the Elderlings does follow Fitz as he grows to be an old man, basically, which I just think is such a cool concept. So I've really been wanting to continue the Farseer trilogy, just kind of see what I think about it. I didn't 100% love Assassin's Apprentice, but I liked it. And then I do have two new releases that are coming out very soon that I cannot wait for. The first one being The Scholar and the Last Fairy Door by H.G. Perry. I read an H.G. Perry book earlier this year and I really enjoyed it. I really liked the writing. I really liked the kind of whimsy of it all. So when I heard that they had a book about fairies and scholars, I was like, sign me up. Yes, I'm reading that. I do believe this one comes out in October, maybe? Yeah, it comes out on October 22nd. I 100% will be picking it up because I cannot wait. I don't even 100% know what it's about, but the title alone reminded me of Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, and it's from an author that I've read before and I enjoyed, so it's a must buy, it's a must read. But it takes place in 1920 and it follows a character that is a student at a secret magical academy. And I believe she opens a fairy door of some sort and that gets her into a whole bunch of trouble down the road. So I'm really excited about this one. I feel like it's gonna be good. I have high hopes for this one. And then this other book, I had no clue was coming out until Cass sent me a picture of her like fall TBR and I like honed in on this book. I was like, what is this? I must know about it. And it's called A Dark and Secret Magic by Wallace Kinney. Like, look at the cover of this book. Like, obviously I was very drawn to this. I believe this book is following a coven of witches who are like preparing for a Halloween celebration. I mean, come on, like even that, it sounds so good. And I believe our main character discovers this like old tome full of dark magic and chaos ensues, basically. It sounds just so good, so perfect for October. I suppose maybe I should have put this in the first section. Honestly, I just kind of had my like new releases lumped together, but who needs organization? Not me. Anyway, the last book that I have in my fantasy that I'm gonna be reading after Halloween kind of section here is The Return of the King, because I will be finishing up my reread of The Lord of the Rings, and then I do have plans to read The Hobbit in December, kind of around Christmas time, because that's when I read it the first time, and I kind of would like to read that around then again. But in November, I will definitely be finishing up The Lord of the Rings, and I'm so excited about it. The ending of the series, it makes me very melancholy, but also very happy. I definitely have conflicting feelings about the ending of this series, but I think that's kind of the point, so it's doing its job. But I am very excited to, you know, finish up this journey, see where our characters end up, and I cannot wait. So yeah, I won't say too much about that though, because it's everything that I said about the Two Towers, basically. And then I do have 3 books which are not fantasy books, although I guess you probably could somewhat consider this next book fantasy in a way, because I want to read Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. I read Circe for my Patreon book club in August and I loved it so much. Like, it was so good. I've been putting off Circe for quite a while, but when I finally got to it and I picked it up, I was like, ooh, this is so good. And it made me want to read more kind of Greek myth retelling type things in that vein, and this is one that I've definitely seen around a lot as well. Obviously, we're going to be following Ariadne, who is, I believe, the niece of Circe, and she is the sister of the Minotaur. So I believe we're going to go into the whole Daedalus making the labyrinth with the Minotaur and the red string and Perseus going in to kill the Minotaur, whole thing, all of that from Greek mythology, which I'm very excited about. I believe Ariadne also has ties to Dionysus as well, so quite well, I guess, you know, there's a bunch of grapes on here, so like probably. But I'm just so excited about this one because I've seen really, really good things about it. A lot of people really like this one, and I just need more Greek myth retellings in my life because I love Greek myth as so many people do, so I feel like it's weird that I waited this long to pick some up, but it's finally time. Even though I do feel like I'm a little bit past the trend of people picking up Greek myth retellings, I'm kind of past the trend on like everything, so nobody should be surprised, but I'm really excited about this one. And then I do have 2 books for a video that I'm planning on filming in November that I'm very excited about. The first one being The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. This, I believe, was written in the 60s maybe, and it is following our main character Esther, and we're kind of just following Esther as she goes through her life as a woman in the maybe it's 50s or 60s, and I believe it does closely mirror a lot of Sylvia Plath's own experiences. So I've been very intrigued by this one for a while. Obviously, So many people have read this. I know a lot of people really like it. I know a lot of people really don't like it. It's definitely not something that I would usually pick up, but I do kind of want to, you know, read something outside of my comfort zone a little bit. And then the last book that I want to read in late fall is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. I feel like this is like the perfect like late fall, early winter kind of book because it is a very like dark gothic kind of story. I know I said earlier this year that I was going to read Jane Eyre, but I lied. I feel like I'm also in a weird spot with Jane Eyre where it's been like not long enough since I read the first part of it that I want to reread it. I feel like I remember enough, but I feel like I don't remember enough to just pick up from where I left off. So I'm gonna make that a 2025 book. Maybe. I'm just not gonna read it this year basically. And I'm gonna pick up Wuthering Heights instead because this is also on the list of potential books that I could read for this video that I want to film. And Wuthering Heights is also just a book that I've wanted to read for a really long time, and I feel like reading it in the fall is like prime time to read this book, you know? I believe this is following our main character Catherine as she goes to Wuthering Heights. She sees Heathcliff. They have an incredibly toxic love story in this book. And I know so many people hate this book. Like, I know some people love this book, but I've also seen people just absolutely hate it. So I'm very intrigued to see what my reading experience with this book is like, because obviously it is a very popular classic, so I've been wanting to read it for quite a while. So I cannot wait to get to this one and see what I think about it. So those are all of the books on my fall TBR. Also, sorry the sun is looking so weird right now. Maybe I'll just, oh, no, okay, moving back is not gonna help. Maybe I'll move up a little bit. But every time I look at this list, I get so happy, I get so excited, which is exactly what a seasonal TBR should do for me. So I cannot wait to dive into all of these books. Obviously, I would love to know in the comments what are some of the books on your fall TBR, or have you read any of the books that are on my fall TBR? Do you recommend them? Do you think they're bad? I don't know, but let me know. Also, before I go, I would again like to thank Skillshare so much for sponsoring this video. Don't forget, I will leave a link to them down in the description, and the first 500 people that click that link will get their first month of Skillshare for free. I would also like to take a second to thank all of the lovely people that are on my Patreon. If you're ever looking for more content from me, that is always linked down below. But with that, I'm gonna let you go. So I hope you're all having an amazing Friday, or whatever day it is that you are watching this video, and I will see you all in my next one.